Hey everybody, Invisiblekatana here, and today I would like to discuss our favorite weapons in video games. There's of course a million of them, probably billions of them out there, realistically speaking, and tons I haven't experienced. Some I've seen, I know about them and they seem really nice. But of course there are tons that I've used. Throughout my time as a giant effing nerd, I know for a fact I actually have some replicas for some of those weapons. But if this is your first episode, I want to know, what are your favorite weapons in games? I don't know why I said if it's your first episode, it doesn't matter. But if it's your first, welcome. But in general, I would like to know your favorite weapons in games, so definitely put them down in the comments. But I'm going to kick things off, and I have to do my usual staple and reference my favorite franchise. So we're going to start off with Resident Evil. And specifically, we'll start off with my favorite Resident Evil, which is Resident Evil 3, the original Resident Evil 3. So in that game, they have Mercenaries mode. In Mercenaries mode, you play it over and over and over, you get a bunch of money, you can unlock weapons, and they have unlimited ammo. Most of the weapons show up in the game. Two of them don't. You have the infinite rocket launcher, which is like a staple of Resident Evil, which oddly enough, I think that it is the only time that the rocket launcher does not show up in the main campaign is in RE3. At least out of the original fixed camera angle sort of games. But the other weapon that's in there is the infinite Gatling gun. And when I unlocked that, it instantly became my favorite thing ever. And I love that gun. And it, in fact, became my favorite gun on planet Earth because of Resident Evil 3. And also the Resident Evil 3 version is like all silver, so it was just like, that's cool. It's just a giant silver gun that just has like 6 barrels. Like, it was crazy. I'd never seen that before. When I was a kid, I was like, I had no idea what a Gatling gun is. And I prefer Gatling gun. People always go like minigun or something. Like, Gatling gun sounds way cooler, but everyone likes to call it a minigun. I'm like, I guess. But a Gatling gun. And it took me like 20 years to realize that the Gatling gun wasn't just in Resident Evil 3. It is in fact in RE2 as well. I had no idea because I was a kid and I didn't know anything about, beating Resident Evil games with a faster time and all that stuff. Like, I had no idea about any of those things. So when I was a kid, I thought RE2 just didn't have any unlockables. I thought it was like, they had the secret costumes and you got like 1 extra mode or 2 extra modes. I don't remember exactly what you unlock when you first beat the game, but you get something. And I was like, okay, well, those are the unlockables and that's really it. The first game didn't really have anything either. It was like, all right, here's like a couple costumes and that's it. That game also has unlimited ammo weapons, but I was a kid and I didn't know that you could beat the game in like 5 hours and stuff like that. That didn't compute to me. But the Gatling gun in RE3, definitely one of my favorite weapons in all the games because it became literally my favorite gun on this planet. So, RE3 with the Gatling gun, I'm going to shout this out super fast and I still wish it was in the remake and I'm really upset that they didn't do it and I don't understand why. But in Resident Evil 4, and I don't know why it stuck in my head, maybe it's because I read it off the back of the case like 100 million times when I was younger, but on the PlayStation 2, Resident Evil 4 got a few upgrades. One of those upgrades was a new special weapon. Actually, there were a couple, because I don't think the Tommy gun was in the original version either. But I don't recall, because I just don't remember, because that was 100 million years ago. But I know the PRL 412 laser cannon was not in the original RE4, but it's been in every version ever since, so basically it's a part of the game now, because they added that in the PS2 version. They even updated it in the Wii version to make it, like, it charges like twice as fast, and it can kill literally everything. I got the PS2 version, so it charges super slow, and it only shoots 1 laser off, and then I was like super pissed that I unlocked that, because the same day my cousin unlocked his version on the Wii, and I was at my aunt's house, so I unlocked it, and I finally got it, and then my little cousin was like, oh, it's not like that on the Wii version. I was like, what do you mean? And then I went upstairs to look at his brother's thing. I was like, show me the laser cannon. And it charges twice as fast, and it literally kills everything. And I was like, what? Well, that sucks. So, the PRL 412 laser cannon, I wish it was in the remake. I don't understand why they didn't do it, but I wish it was there. And it stands for Plaga Removal Laser, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that should be it. That's what the PRL stands for. But there you go, the PRL 412 laser cannon. I remember the whole name. I wish it was in the remake. But moving on from Resident Evil to another Capcom franchise in Devil May Cry. Devil May Cry, of course, has like 100 billion things to love. Like, the weapons are super cool, unless it's like, Devil May Cry 2, in which case I like the skinnier sword or whatever. I mean, it's supposed to be faster, but in DMC 2, like, they say stuff is different, but it doesn't matter. So I like the black sword that's in DMC2. I don't remember if it's called Oblivion, but I'll be honest, every black blade is Oblivion now thanks to Kingdom Hearts 2. That's just how I roll, because that's Kingdom Hearts 2. But Cerberus in DMC3, I think might be my favorite Devil May Cry weapon. Honestly, it's hard to say, because in DMC5, we got Cerberus 2.0. And Cerberus 2.0 is like, hey, here's Cerberus with all the cool ice stuff, because it's awesome, but also we'll make it transform into a 3-link staff. That's awesome. And that gets fire powers and lightning powers. So it's way better, in 5 it's better. In 5 it's better, because you get your original version, and then it can transform into the staff, and that's for fire, and then when it unlinks, that's when it's for lightning. And that was a cool way to do that. So I love Cerberus. I love both versions, but of course in DMC5 it's better because it's the DMC3 version plus extra stuff. So I definitely love that. Some of the moves aren't there. I do love in DMC3 using like Swordmaster style, and I think it's when you get to level 3 you get like the crazy ice shield where he literally like forms an orb of ice around himself as like a defense, and then I think when it's bigger you can like slam on the ground and it shoots the ice outward as you like destroy your shield. So I love that move. That was definitely one of my favorite moves in DMC3, and I don't believe they put that one in 5 because admittedly you got like also fire and lightning as a defense as well. But I always thought that move looked really cool, and I'm a sucker for some nunchaku, so super crazy ice versions of it, always better. So I love that from 3. I love it in DMC5. Of course, there's, like I said, a million other weapons. Virgil, he has a katana. Of course, I'm going to go with the Yamato. It looks cool, and because of Virgil, you can slice through. Well, I don't remember if it's because of Virgil or if it's just the blade itself. I think technically it's the blade itself, and you can like cut through dimensions and stuff like that. Yeah, so I think it's the blade. It's not just Virgil, because Dante can do it too. So it's amazing. You get the judgment cut, and it's super cool, and it's ridiculous and super anime style. But it's a classic magical demon katana. I like it. I love it, in fact, because it's a katana. But also, it just looks sweet, the Yamato. So it's definitely cool. If we're counting weapons, even though he kind of lost it and then kind of got it back, the Devil Bringer. Nero's like main thing, it was just amazing. In DMC4, that was super cool, and it was awesome to have all these contextual things for all the different bosses and enemies and stuff like that. So of course, it was awesome. And it looks cool too. And then sadly, DMC5 came along, and he had to switch things up a little bit. So Devil Bringer, definitely cool, and you kind of get it back with DMC5 anyway. But I always loved that. I thought it looked very cool. His main sword is also super cool, which I can't remember the name of right now, but it's a blade that literally has an engine in it that you can rev it up. That's super cool. I don't like the design as much as I like the Rebellion, or the Yamato, obviously, just it's a katana. But I like the Rebellion's look because it's like a symmetrical blade, and man, I wish I could remember the name of Nero's sword, because I think his gun is like the Rose something, which I also can't remember. But I love his guns too. His specific gun where it's like got the 2 barrels, one above the other. I love that. I don't know, because this will transition to our next game, but love the blade, love the gun, and I don't know if that may or may not, because I'm trying to remember the year. Because it was definitely way beforehand. So I don't know if it's possible, but there is a slight connection between, and I mean there's multiple connections if we're just talking about the franchises. But of course, transitioning from Devil May Cry to Bayonetta, her guns are also really cool, and they also have the 2-barrel thing, at least for the first 2 games. Of course, in the third one, she has like triple barrel handguns, which are absolutely insane. But in the first 2 games, they're just stacked on top of each other. It's like a 1 barrel on top, 1 barrel on the bottom. And it reminds me a lot of Nero's gun. And it's like, that's interesting. I never really even made that connection until just now thinking about it, because I'm like, it's Devil May Cry and Bayonetta. For anyone who doesn't know that connection, there's a whole story there. Just look into it. It's great. But love her guns. Her gun is actually one of the replicas that I own. I have which one is it? It's the one with the blue jewel. They all have different names and everything. I'm not that deep into it. As much as I love Bayonetta, I'm horrible with names, so I definitely don't remember the names of her guns. But I have the one that has the blue jewel in it, which is actually the very first gun that she picks up in the first game when Rodan actually makes her magical guns. The first one she touches is the blue one. So that's the one that I have, and I love that gun. I always thought they looked super cool. It's like, oh, it's interesting. They're just, you don't see pink handguns look cool. You don't see pink handguns really in general. It's not very common that you see that happen unless it's like a custom thing. I'm sure you can do that in Call of Duty because you can play as Beavis and Butthead in that game for some idiotic reason. So I'm sure you can have a pink gun in Call of Duty. I'm sure they're in there. But for Bayonetta, it just looks super cool. It's got like a nice, it's like a metallic pink, and just the design of the gun is super cool. And like, I mean, granted, everything about Bayonetta is super cool. Same with Devil May Cry, except for Devil May Cry 2. But I love those guns. I think they look super cool. I, of course, do like the blue ones more because blue is my favorite color. So her weapons from I almost said DMC 2, but her weapons from Bayonetta 2, I like more, specifically, her main guns. And I like the fact that she has crazy triple barrel guns in Bayonetta 3, but I do like the originals more. And like I said, 2 specifically because blue is just my favorite color. But Bayonetta also has an insane amount of weapons, much like Devil May Cry. You get a bunch of different stuff from each game. All the weapons do different things. They all have, some of them even have costumes. That's one of my favorite things about Bayonetta. You get a different costume, and then you can basically get an upgrade to change your costume every time you switch to a weapon. And I always thought that was a super cool feature of the game. Like it feels like it just adds like just that little extra layer, like you're adding cosmetics to the game, but it's also like, hey, you're now a bit more powerful with the weapon. It's almost like you've mastered it pretty much when you get to that point. And I always thought that was just a cool feature in the games. But one of my favorites, and it's a weapon that I wish, one of the things I really wish when it comes to Bayonetta is that like all the games were in all the weapons showed up in all the games. That would be super cool. Even if it's just like random unlockables, I wish they had that because that would just be a really fun feature to have, literally like all those options. But sadly not the case, so I have to go Bayonetta 1. One of the most unique weapons I think I've ever seen is the fact that you can get ice skates in that game. Like deadly magical ice skates. And I remember I saw a video, and that's how I found out they were even in the game. I completely missed them the first time I played the game. I was like, whoa, there are ice skates in this game. And then you unlock them, and they're super cool. And she, of course, does, a bunch of kicks and stuff, and she does that in general. But now, she's got crazy ice techniques, and she can freeze enemies, and I think you can even pick some of them up and, like, throw them once they turn into ice blocks. But I love the ice skates. I always thought they were super cool. So those are probably my favorite weapon from the first game. Of course, she also has a katana, which I think that's like the one weapon that made it through all 3 of the games, because I think the katana is also in the 3rd game. And it was just like, here you go, magic katana, and it honestly, it gives you like one of the easiest combos on planet Earth, where I think it's like kick, kick, punch, basically, and then you kick, and then you just do a giant slash, and it makes like almost like an after image of the blade. So of course that's awesome, but that's just an easy one. But definitely the ice skates, I think, are like the number 1 from Bayonetta 1. I never unlocked the nunchaku. If we're going back to that, I never unlocked those. You have to do so much in that game to get those. It's like the final unlockable. And I never got to experience that, which is unfortunate. And also I didn't know they existed for like 10 years or something. And I was like, what? I beat this game 13 effing times and I still didn't end up unlocking everything. Like, it's ridiculous how much stuff is in the Bayonetta games. But I'm sure those are amazing. I just never got to experience them personally. So I'm going with the ice skates probably for Bayonetta 1. Bayonetta 2, I can tell you, it's the whip. The whip, hands down, is just crazy. Like, it might be overpowered, if we're being completely honest. I mean, that's kind of the point of Bayonetta, but the whip might be like super duper overpowered. Like, that weapon is so fun to play with to me, where you're just flipping and spinning. It feels like you hit everything and everybody. You can grab enemies when they're stunned and start just whipping around. You can do like the Hulk move where you just grab them and start slamming people. I feel like I get the easiest combos off with that, and it looks cool. Like, it's just a flurry, like basically it's meant to be like a rose vine, so it's got like thorns and stuff on the whip, and it's just fun. Like, all the moves are like really AoE type of attacks, and she spins and flips and stuff, and it just feels like the most acrobatic to me. And it just feels super fun. Like, it feels, like I said, it feels like not only do you get the combos off, and you still have to be good with them, because even if you're just button mashing, you still won't get like the best combos, but it just feels like the most powerful weapon in that game. Like I said, it feels kind of overpowered, which maybe that's why it feels so fun, and you can use it on the challenge stuff and it still balances out, I guess. But man, the whip from Bayonetta 2 is 100% my favorite weapon in the second game. Like, it's just crazy. Like, as soon as I unlocked that, I was like, yes, this is the only thing that I need. This is absolutely amazing. Shout out to the shotgun though, because that was crazy when the demons came in and it was like, hey, you can get like a double barrel shotgun, a demon shotgun. Who can say that's a bad thing, So that's super cool. And in Bayonetta 3, that's an interesting one because Bayonetta 3 gets so insane that it's hard to pick. But I will give a shout out to the fact that you can make a demonic train a weapon, which is ridiculous and fun. But there's also the crazy magic demon tower that has all sorts of weird stuff in it, where it's a giant demon clock tower, but it can have like hands that come out and it shoots missiles and opens up to other stuff. Like, it's crazy. Bayonetta 3 has like some of the wildest weapons, I think, in the franchise, but it's because of like the way they changed the mechanic of like the demon summons and all that stuff. But gotta give a shout out to the fact that you can fight using a demon train and also a giant demon clock tower that's just utterly ridiculous. The clock tower reminds me a lot of Pandora from like DMC4, which is another fantastic weapon. Like, that's just really crazy. You can make a giant laser beam, you can make a blade, you can make a Gatling gun out of a briefcase. You can do all sorts of things. It turns into like everything. So another great weapon from Devil May Cry. But Bayonetta, Devil May Cry, if you once again, if you know the history, you know the history. It's all there, like just buttloads of weapons and all sorts of cool stuff. So absolutely love those weapons, love those games naturally. And then of course there's a ton of other things. Just to jump back to Resident Evil super fast, the Samurai Edge is like the classic Stars gun. That's the other weapon I have a replica of, just in case anybody was curious. Those are the two. So Bayonetta's first handgun set of guns, well, one of them because I could not afford all four. One of her guns, and then Jill's specifically, her Samurai Edge from Resident Evil 1. So wanted to throw that out there just in case anybody was like, oh, what are the other replicas? Those are specifically the two, so the two handguns. There are definitely some other replicas I wish I had. One of them that's out there, of course, shout out to Dead Space, FUEA. But Dead Space, my favorite weapon when I was growing up, I said that like when I was a kid, granted it was like early 360 days, it was a long time ago. But for me, I always loved the line gun. But of course, the classic plasma cutter, it looks good. It has like I'm a sucker for symmetry. So it's got a simple symmetrical look. And one day, when I've got like a ridiculous amount of extra money, I'll go on Etsy and I'll buy a ridiculously overpriced replica that somebody made, and it turns, and I'll be like, cool, it turns and has lasers. So I love the plasma cutter. It is like the gun of Dead Space, and it's very cool. But I always liked the line gun. I always thought that was sick. I think in the remake they made it even crazier. It's excessively OP, especially the alternate fire where you just can set traps that hurt people or hurt the necromorphs like crazy. But love the plasma cutter, love the line gun. The one gun I remember hating when I first played in the original Dead Space, they actually changed it in the remake. But it was the pulse rifle, and it was basically just like the classic machine gun where it's like, okay, you can buy an assault rifle, and that's like the most basic gun of the entire game. And I always thought it sucked because I was like, it's just like it doesn't feel as cool. But the alternate fire was really interesting in the original. It didn't make a lot of sense, but it was really cool, and it was almost like you would put it above your head like an umbrella, and then instead of shooting vertical, it would actually shoot sideways. So it would shoot around you like in a circle, like a defense mechanism. And it's like, that is really, really cool. But also I can see why that wouldn't make a lot of sense in the world in general. You'd have to literally be the only person there, surrounded, in order for that to be a valuable thing where you just shoot bullets sideways. Because it's like, how do you, I don't think that works very well. So they changed it in the remake to just be a grenade launcher. But I always liked the alternate fire, but as a whole, I didn't really like that gun. But I wanted to give it a shout out because I always thought that was such a unique alternate fire. But I was like, yeah, I don't really like the weapon, but you gotta admit the alt fire is very unique. It's interesting to think about. But weapons I did like: plasma cutter, line gun, and what the heck was that thing? It's not the contact beam, which is just a laser beam. So of course, that's kind of cool. But there was like I think it's just called the force gun. I think that's what it is. I think it's just the force gun. The force gun is crazy in the remake. First off, it's in general with the details of like dismemberment and stuff in the remake. You use the force gun and you charge it up all the way. It will literally like blow the skin off of the necromorphs, and it's gross, but absolutely amazing. And then the alt fire for that one is it basically just shoots out a black hole. And then as you upgrade it, it gets like little lightning bits attached to it as well. So that I really love that in the remake because it was not like that in the first game. I think they had it where you could shoot little concussive balls and they would kind of just drop out to the ground. Or I think you would like aim down and like, knock people back. I think that was the move. But you can just shoot like a little black hole now, which is absolutely insane. So definitely love that in the remake. I think they did a great job with that one. As far as like other weapons in Dead Space, all I come back to is like, as long as I got my plasma cutter and the line gun, I'm pretty much set. Flamethrowers, interesting. I've never been the biggest flamethrower person in like any game, but it's fun to use it in the Dead Space remake. Like there's a moment I played where I was like, I feel like I'm playing Alien. Just like I was just shooting off all of everything I had with the flamethrower, and I was like, this feels like I'm in, like I feel like I'm on the Nostromo or something. Like I'm dealing with, you know, obviously necromorph, xenomorph. I felt like I was an alien. I was like, I just got the flamethrower blasted, and I was like, this looks super cool. Like just visually and everything. I kind of like using the flamethrower a lot in the remake. Like it just feels really fun to me. So really enjoy that. Once again, RIP Dead Space, HEA, you suck. But that is the life of an EA franchise or anything, because EA just does stupid stuff and they don't actually care. They say they care about money, but they kill everything that makes money because it didn't make $1 billion off the top. Anyway, I'm gonna end things there. I know there are 100 million games I didn't reference. Never really played much of Halo, so you know none of those weapons stick out. Warhammer, never really played, but of course the chainsaw blade is pretty awesome. Shout out Gears of War with the chainsaw gun. But yeah, I think that's about it. I want to know your thoughts. What are your favorite weapons in games? What franchises are just like, hey, here's a weapon, and you're just like, you know what? That's effing awesome. I need to know. What are your favorite weapons in games? Because there are so many out there. Like I said, I know there are tons that I didn't reference, tons that I've never experienced, all sorts of stuff. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.